Hello and welcome to part 2 of Shoot the Defence tonight. I'm your host still again, and this is Yanakis. I'm not going to ask how you are because we've done that already. Our special guest, all the way from Norway, is a good friend of the show's, Jonas Giaever. Jonas, welcome to the show, mate. Great to have you on.
Thank you so much, Stel. It's an honor to be on.
Hey, the pleasure's all mine, mate. Pleasure's all mine. Thank you for coming because I know it's like 10 to 1 out there at the moment.
That's right. That's right. It's a late night showing for me this evening.
Excellent. Well, look, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, again, pleasure is all mine. You know, this is our passion. I mean, we all enjoy football, and I mean, regardless if it's 1 a.m. or 1 p.m., I mean, we can talk about this. So I'm looking forward to a good discussion about all things Champions League. You know, perhaps a little bit of goalkeepers, perhaps a little bit of other youth football and so forth. Wherever you want to go, I'm ready to go.
Let's do it. Okay, so you mentioned the Champions League. Let's go, because Juve played Monaco tonight. I mean, this Juve side doesn't seem to have the elite names like it did in the early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. You talk about Zidane, Thuram, Del Piero, Nedved. But the main thing that they have in common is a fear factor now. They've gone from a side no one wants to play because they're tricky, in inverted commas, to please God, anyone but them. I've been impressed with how they've played as a team. I mean, Mandzukic ran at least 80 yards for his goal today. Absolutely incredible. What do you make of this new style Juventus?
It's a team. It's not an individual-based team such as some claim Barcelona are. People claim that Real Madrid are an individual-based team. Some will claim that Manchester United have been an individual-based team. Some will mean that with Arsenal as well, with Alexis Sanchez. I think more than ever, we're seeing a team that's coming together. Like we did, I see you have the Munich and Dortmund scarf behind you. I mean, they were two fantastic teams. And when you ask anyone from I suppose, a couple of years ago, who were the stars of that team, you'll struggle to find a name because they were so great as a unit. And I think in the case of Juventus, they have such a great foundation and defense first and foremost, which I think is where they build everything upon. And a great basis at the back also allows for your players up front to be more creative, to feel like they don't have to be perfect in everything they do, and which again creates a sense of fantasy, creates a sense of fun. And you can see that in Juventus. I mean, everyone wants to sacrifice themselves, and I mean, a great team spirit trumps any individual skill for me. I mean, it's so great to see a team coming together like that. And I think that, in my estimation, even though I like what Zidane has done with Real Madrid, and I'll be very surprised if they don't go to the finals against Juventus. But regardless of who Juventus face, I have them as favorites to win the Champions League now.
Absolutely, I agree with that. To be fair, they lost Pirlo. Obviously, they lost Pogba. I say lost, not literally like disappearing, that kind of thing. You know, they left the club. They brought in Khedira. They brought in Pjanic. It seems like a more, how can I put it, more creative central midfield. Well, previously it was a more creative central midfield. Now it seems more solid, a bit more dynamic, I'd say. Are you one of these guys where, I know that you don't like the way United are playing at the moment as a United fan, but what do you say about Juventus' style? Because let's be honest, they like to get men behind the ball.
They do, but they've got a game plan. They're very good defensively, and they're very good offensively as well. I mean, Dybala's made such a massive difference to Juventus. I rate him highly, to be honest. And Higuain's come in and he does what he does best. He's scored over 25 goals already this season for Juventus as well. So, and they've still got one of the best goalkeepers in Buffon. So collectively, as a whole team, you know, the spine of the team is brilliant. If you look at, you know, you go from Buffon to Bonucci to Khedira to Higuain, you know, the spine's there, and everyone knows their jobs. Everyone works hard. And like Jonas said, it's a collective thing. There's not such a thing where it's individuals. You know, they all work each other. They all know the job. And Allegri is a tactical genius for me as well. I think he's a brilliant manager, Allegri. He did it at Milan, and he's doing it at Juventus consistently as well. So it's very hard to find a fault with Juventus as such. I think they'll be favourites for the Champions League as well. I think they'll win it.
Fair point. What is it about Italian teams and defenders in their mid to late 30s? And we had, you know, Baresi, Maldini, Cafu, Costa Curta. Now you've got Dani Alves. Before we had Patrice Evra. What's going on? How do they keep them fit, Jonas? I don't get it. It's fantastic.
In my opinion, not even mentioning the best one, Alessandro Nesta. He was absolutely fantastic until he was 36, 37. I don't know. I mean, I think in Italian football, there's always been an emphasis on physical work. I mean, some will also, when I say that, some genius will probably sit there and say, well, they doped all their players in the 90s, which I suppose in a way they did. But I think more so than anything, Italians have always been very consistent in understanding nutrition, in understanding how to sort of keep your bodies fit for a long, long time. You see, usually at every single World Cup, when you look at the average age, it's usually the Italians that are the oldest, because they just manage to keep fit. They manage to stay healthy, and I also think that the Italian football is so much based around tactics that if you set up very, very well, usually you don't have to be that young, that youthful and that energetic, because you understand your role. And a manager that sets up the team will understand the role that he set his team up in. He'll understand that he doesn't need all the youthful players. He'll understand that perhaps he'll need someone to sort of come in and change the game. And of course, he's not going to play a team of 11, 35-year-olds. But I think that more so than anything, Italian football is based around tactics, based around nutrition and understanding how to keep your body fit, which again allows you to drag your career into the late 30s and early 40s, which we've seen with so many players. And I think that the main guy in the semifinals for Juventus, in my estimation, has been Dani Alves. And he's sort of had a renaissance now at Juventus. Started off being very one game good, one game bad. He didn't manage to sort of keep consistent, whether it was bad or was good. But he's really come into his own now in the Champions League. And I think that he sort of underlines the effect that Italian football seemingly has had on several of these old-timers that we've seen that have come in and sort of been able to find a sense of renaissance. And it's nothing new. I mean, Milanello, which is where Juventus, Milan trained, has for years and years and years had their own lab in which they've tried to sort of understand how can we get the most out of our players and how can we get their careers to last as long as possible. And they've been very successful, and that's just, been infused into Italian football in general. And you don't see that anywhere else. And I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Absolutely.
Even someone, I just wanted to have someone like Mandzukic, who's always been an out-and-out striker wherever he's been, actually plays left midfield for Juventus, and he tracks up and down that wing. Again, shows the ethnicity and the work rate and the team spirit that they've got there at Juventus.
Yeah, definitely. But when I think about Mandzukic as well, which is very important to remember, he has a quality that so many people forget. He has a really strange way of doing it, but he always scores the 1-0 goal. I don't know. I think there's something that needs to be said about a player that consistently scores the 1-0 goal. I mean, he always finds the way to score the first goal of the game, which sort of changes the game, because there is that cliche, goals change games.
Yeah.
So I mean, but he does that so consistently, and to his credit, he's always been very energetic. He always runs. He's sort of the second coming of Ivica Olic for any Man United, if I remember him. And he would run his socks off as well. So I mean, he's sort of taken after him. How he's managed to play on a right wing or a left wing rather, given that he's not really that fast, and he sort of is that lanky, big build, with larger players, and how he's fit into this. Again, I mean, as you guys mentioned, Allegri must be a tactical genius to make him function in that role.
It's incredible because you kind of see like. Higuain, Dybala, and Mandzukic kind of like rotating around each other. So you got Dybala dropping deep, Higuain will move a bit to the right, and then Mandzukic will just make these diagonal runs.
Yeah, that's right.
And for a fullback and a central defender, that must be extremely tricky because you're thinking you got two players. One of them plays off the defender's shoulder in Higuain. You got Dybala that just likes to come deep and just lay the ball off, and then you got Mandzukic, who, as you said, extremely lanky. He's not the quickest, but he's powerful.
Yeah, and then we've got Dani Alves probably from the outside right, so making the angles from the right hand side. It will be a very intriguing final. Whoever Juventus face, it probably will be Real Madrid, but it will be a highly competitive game. And let's be 100% honest, the way that Juventus played Barcelona off the park in both games,
listen, for me, they deserve it, and I think Buffon conceded his first goal in the knockout phase of the season
because it didn't matter.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we mentioned. Well, let's talk briefly about Monaco anyway, Jonas, because they've stolen the hearts of many fans all over the world. Although I can't help but think there's going to be some kind of mass exodus in the summer. Do you think that's on the horizon, mate?
Well, if the teams or the clubs rather pay the amount that Monaco wants, then of course Monaco will have now the past couple of years pride themselves on being a selling club. They used to be a buying club who wanted to replicate what PSG did, and then the owner Rybolovlev, I suppose his last name is, he was in a pretty bad divorce in which he sort of have to give his ex-wife half his fortune, which sort of yeah, pretty much, which sort of, I suppose that alone meant that the whole of Monaco had to redirect their way of success or get to success, and they decided that instead of buying the Falcaos, the James Rodriguez, and Moutinhos of the world, they'd have to go for the Mbappés, the Thomas Lemars, and I suppose the Chimwe Bakayoko of the world, and I mean they managed to get a manager in the Nara Jardim that sort of had to find himself playing offensive football rather than defensive football, because that was sort of his calling card. And it's been a great success. And I think now, looking at it, sort of thinking about it, they'll lose from this team today, or the squad today. At least 5 of those guys won't be there next season, I think. Strangely, I think Mbappe will be there. But I don't think Bakayoko is gone. Bernardo Silva's probably gone. Fabinho is gone. That's 3. Benjamin Mendy. Huh?
Falcao, do you think he'll stay?
Yeah. Falcao will stay. I mean, well, you see how he does when he goes to England. So I suppose that won't work for him. And it's been in Spain. I can see someone like Inter or Milan pay a lot of money for him, but I just can't see why he'd go there, especially when he's the captain of Monaco. I mean, they pay him a lot of money. I mean, he hasn't changed his contract at all. So that huge contract he left Atletico Madrid to get at Monaco, he still has. So why would he change? I mean, he's living a great life, tax free in Monaco. So I wouldn't see why he'd move. So, but I think at least 5 of those guys in that squad is gone because they're young and they want to play in bigger leagues and they have the interest, and the teams have the money, and also there's Jorge Mendes who I mean orchestrates every single move out of Monaco and has great contacts all over the world, which again will mean that they'll lose a lot of players.
Fair point. Very good point. So Juventus will face either Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid in the final. We know that Real Madrid are taking a 3-0 lead to the Vicente Calderon. I'm not sure what we can say about Real Madrid that hasn't already been said, although Zidane has quietly gone about his business. I know he became their permanent manager when Rafa Benitez got the sack, but for me, it just seems that he's the longest-serving caretaker manager. How important do you think he's been for him?
I think he's sorted out the defence, believe it or not. Real Madrid have always been a team attack. He's come in and they do play attacking football, but he's got the line between attack and defence. And Casemiro's been very important to Real Madrid because he's got that job where him and Cruz sit in front of the back 4 and give a lot of protection to the defence. I think his record speaks for it. So I think he's only lost like 6 or 8 games since he's been in charge last year, which is incredible for a manager that's kind of never managed before to come in and have a record like that. I think it's brilliant. Tactically, he's not bad, Zidane. I think he's been good. But if they don't win the Champions League, will they keep him? You know, Real Madrid have got a record or a history, so to speak, as in the league title might not be enough. And if they don't win the Champions League, he might be gone in the summer. And we know, as past experiences, that winning the league is not enough.
What do you think, Jonas?
Zidane. It's a weird topic because I've been asked about him several times. I was on TV here in Norway talking about it, and when I was looking back at it, I really can't explain what it is because I don't think he's very good tactically. I don't think he's a very good man manager. I don't think he's not a good talker. He doesn't seem to be when I listen to him talk, I don't think, oh, here's someone who's going to change football. And when he sort of moves on, Real Madrid are going to be in a better place, and they've found a philosophy for life. But I think the one thing that Zidane has more so than any other manager perhaps in the world is when he goes into a dressing room and he sits down and he says, this is how we're going to do it, and this is how we're going to win. I think players believe in him because he has won the World Cup, he's won the European Cup, he's won the Champions League, he's won the La Liga, he's won everything and anything wherever he's been. So if anyone is going to believe, if there's any manager out there that you have to sort of believe will know how to win, it's him. And I mean, you see that in Real Madrid as well. When they're trailing a goal, going into the 93rd minute, they keep going. They just keep at it. It's a little bit reminiscent of Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson. You sort of you knew that something would happen. You knew that they never surrender. And that's the weird thing about Zidane. I think that he has installed a winning mentality that is very reminiscent of his own. And I think players, more so than anything, believe that he is, I suppose, the savior in some aspects, and sort of the guy that'll take Real Madrid back to the heights that they think that they should be at, which they are at now, I'd say. I was at the Estadio Santiago Bernabeu a little over a week ago, and you just, the atmosphere there, it's strange because, Valencia, they equalized with I suppose 12 minutes to go, and you just knew that they'd score. It was just weird to sit there and just, you knew that Real Madrid would win. You just knew it because that's sort of what they've installed in themselves. And that's all Zidane, because, under Benitez, they'd trail a goal and the game was over. During some stages of Ancelotti's reign as well, you knew that something, it could irk them as well with Mourinho as well. You knew that something would happen. Well, with Zidane, you just know that they'll win. And it's strange. It's inexplainable, but I suppose for all his lacks and for all the doubters that were out there, I don't think we can doubt him anymore because he's proven now that he'll win.
A lot of his gambles have worked this season.
Definitely.
He's rested, Bell when he was fit, Ronaldo, Benzema. He's brought in players like Lucas Vasquez, Asensio. Asensio was a brilliant little player.
Fantastic. Isco as well.
Morata's come in, and whenever he's rested the big players, they've gone away to like your Depols and scored 6, and Granada they scored 4, and he seems to get the best out of every single player. Even players like James Rodriguez, who's probably not a favourite of Zidane, but it doesn't play. Even when he comes in, he still does the job. He still does the business.
Definitely.
And what Jonas was saying is true. I think Zidane has got that respect element about him. He's got that aura where when people respect Zidane, and instantly gives his players a lot of confidence, a lot of time to kind of express themselves on the pitch. So I think they reflect him as a player onto the pitch.
Well, don't forget when Zidane signed for Real Madrid in that world transfer fee, a lot of these players now were probably kids.
Yeah.
So they're looking up to him and thinking, wow, it's like me or you being managed by Jurgen Klinsmann or Lothar Matthäus. It's just stuff like that. But the thing is, Jonas, you mentioned Zidane's man management. Do you think it's a case that he's actually got on the right side of the right players? Because we know that obviously there's cliques that are formed in many clubs. So is there a chance that he's actually, not literally jumped into bed, but obviously, with Ramos, with Cristiano Ronaldo, the big names, the guys that have a presence in the dressing room, and once you've got them on side, it will just resonate to the rest of the team?
It could be, but I think more so, I think you hit the nail on the head in that first part of your saying there. I think that all these players grew up watching him. All of them know what he's about. I mean, as you said, if I'm sitting in a dressing room and I'm 24 years old, if David Beckham walks into the dressing room when I'm sitting there and he's telling me you should do this, and that, I'm doing this, and that, regardless of how big I am. Cristiano Ronaldo would probably do the same thing with Zidane. Marcelo would do the same thing. Ramos would do the same thing because they grew up watching him and probably loving the way he played. Several of them were Real Madrid fans. Ronaldo was a Real Madrid fan. Ramos was a Real Madrid fan, sort of. Marcelo was brought in very young, so I think he was even there for Zidane's last season, I think. So these are players that respect him and adore him, and I think that if Ramos is sitting there in the dressing room saying we should listen to Zidane, if Ronaldo says we should listen to Zidane, I'll tell you what, Cruz, Modric, Casemiro, Pepe, all these players will sit there and nod, yes, we will listen to him. I mean, so I don't think that, when I say that he's a bad man manager, I just haven't seen a situation in which he had to go in and change something with a player and sort of sit down with him and say, listen, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. I think that his handling of Isco and James has been pretty bad, to be honest with you, because he's sort of just dragging them on, and they seem to sort of have this endless belief that they'll play, even though they probably never will be a star, even though Isco is getting closer. I think his handling of Bale has been strange, because he risked them a couple of weeks ago and he was injured again. So I mean, I'm a little bit uncertain as to his man management, but I just think that there's this everlasting belief in him because he is Zidane, regardless. So I think that he's won a lot by just being who he is, and you can't fault that. But I do wonder if you place him at, say, I can't say Juventus because he's been there as well. If you go to Manchester United, you put him at Manchester United, put him at Chelsea, put him at Manchester City, will he have the same effect? I don't know. The same way I don't think that Diego Simeone will have the same effect when he leaves Atletico Madrid, unless he goes to Lazio or Inter.
Well, that's a fantastic segue. You must have read my mind, because I was about to ask you what of Simeone then, because look, I'm not going to get a lot of people disagreeing with me, but I think he's done all he can for Atleti. I think he's taken them as far as he can go. I mean, we know great managers have always been able to let go of players, rebuild and maintain their success. What is your opinion on Simeone's future? I mean, you mentioned he could be going to Lazio Inter. I mean, Pioli was sacked today, so
yeah.
Well, there have been rumors that they've already met with Simeone Inter. I mean, regardless, I don't think that he'll go there now, because Atletico Madrid are opening a new stadium next season. The Metropolitano is opening up. Apparently, he's given the word to Atletico Madrid that he's staying for that season, and that he wants to be the manager of Atletico Madrid when they open up that stadium. So he'll be there at least next season as well. But I do wholeheartedly agree with you. I think that he's taken them as far as he can. He's won the La Liga. He's been in the Champions League final twice. I mean, they've been unlucky not to win it. And this is with a squad of sorry to say, and I know there's probably some Atletico Madrid fans watching, losers. A lot of those players were losers when they came in. And he created a winning mentality. He created sort of a never say die attitude, and we're perhaps not the most talented, but we're going to work our socks off more so than the opponent. And they won hearts, and they won matches, and they won championships based off of that. So, I mean, he's taken them as far as he can. They won all they can with him. If they somehow manage to go to a final, that's going to be it. Another final. If he loses another final as well, I just can't see. There's several players I can't see staying. I can't see Griezmann staying more so than this year if they lose again. And I wonder if he's sort of, because he was close to quitting last year. He said that after they lost the final, he said that he really had to give it another great thought or great period of thinking to see if he wanted to stay, and decided eventually that he would stay, and they would stay for another 2 years at least. But it just looks like a project that's just on the way down. I mean, my hope is, as I'm more of a fan of good football and more a fan of a good underdog and a good footballing story. I really don't hope that he manages to manage them for so long that they'll start losing a lot and they'll end, 5th, 6th, 7th, and his reign will sort of be clouded by that. I just hope that he understands himself that when he needs to leave, he leaves, instead of just dragging it out like it seemingly. I think he's doing it a little bit now, but I hope he understands when his limit is there and that he leaves. And that will probably be after next season.
To be honest, I'd be very surprised if he does stay. But this is, as I said, this is just my honest opinion, and
yeah.
I think that this season we've seen a lot of chinks in the armor with Atletico Madrid. Defensively they haven't been as sound as what they used to. Don't get me wrong, fantastic going forward, but they just about beat, was it Eibar the other day?
1-0.
Like a 1-0 win. and again, I know it's all about grinding out results, but it came to a point of the season where we knew that their title charge was finished, and that was like what, 2 months ago. We actually thought Sevilla had more of a chance to win La Liga. What do you make of Simeone? Because we keep talking about, or we hear Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, he's the man to replace Arsene Wenger." We hear Arsenal fans saying they want Allegri. And with the greatest respect to Arsenal, I don't really think they should have this arrogant attitude to think that Simeone or Allegri would want to leave those clubs to go to them, the state that they're in at the moment. Again, my opinion.
Fly banner.
I'll rate Simeone. I mean, for what he's done at Atletico Madrid, a club that, as Jonas said, they weren't really going anywhere until he came in, to be fair, and he's rebuilt a couple of teams, because they've lost kind of top strikers every year. I think Aguero, when he was there, if I'm not mistaken, and then they lost Diego Costa as well. So he's always had to bring, rebuild his teams there, and they're difficult to beat. Tactically, Simeone is very good. He's got a lot of passion, a lot of energy, again, which kind of reflects on the players. He's got the Atletico fans love him there as well, which always helps. Even though if they don't perform well, they don't get results, they're always behind the team, which we know in Spain, white handkerchiefs are all out, and which is well documented. I think he can do a really good job anywhere he goes, because tactically he's there. I mean, the type of manager he is, I'm not sure if he'll suit England as such, but I think somewhere like Italy, maybe Inter Milan. Now that I think Inter Milan will be his kind of team where he'll build them to where he wants them to be. I think for the long kind of future. So I think Inter could be a good move for him.
I think that's his next destination. But Jonas, tell me something. What do you know about Atleti's finances? Because you mentioned that they're building a new stadium. Has he been given the finances, and has he chosen not to take it up? Like Wenger says, he doesn't want to bankrupt the club. Is that the situation? Because we never really have Atleti spending a whole wad of cash on certain players. And, if he went to Inter Milan, he'll be given that money, 100%, won't he?
He will be, but I think he's been a manager that hasn't really looked at the prices more so than looked at the personalities. He enjoys getting in players that'll fit his style. He's always been very wary of bringing up youth. I remember him when he managed River Plate as well in Argentina. He used to always bring up youth players. They were almost relegated with him, actually. A lot of people don't mention that, but he almost relegated River Plate, and he was also. Was it Catania he was at in Italy before? I think he played a lot of youth players there as well. I mean, so he's always been very mindful of youth and as they say in Spain, canteranos, players from the academy. Coque, Saúl, players that he could sort of shape into his own. Lucas Hernandez, Theo Hernandez. These are all players that sort of have the sense of understanding of what club they're at. And he's always been that sort of manager that likes those personalities. But given their finances, it's an interesting topic because a lot of people have speculated whether or not they'll have to sell in order to pay back the loans on the stadium that they've built. And a lot of people think that perhaps they need to sell Griezmann, perhaps they need to sell Saúl or Coque because they have to pay back on the loans, or at least the first sort of down payments on the loans for the new stadium, because they sort of built the stadium thinking that they had more money that they seemingly had, or something along those lines. I read a couple of reports on that they're actually not that well off financially, at least on paper. That won't stop them from having had, I suppose, a budget put out for the transfer window regardless. And again, they might actually have the transfer embargo placed on them for the summer as well. So, which again will challenge Simeone a lot. He bought a lot of youth players at the end of, or before the last summer transfer window, or was it this January? He bought at least 3 or 4 young players that he'll probably be able to get into the squad now, which he'll bone straight out. So again, he likes to promote youth. He likes to sort of use the young players, and I think it suits him more so than buying the big names, even though he has always been very wary of having a good striker. We see that with all the players that he has. Jackson Martinez is probably the only striker he bought that didn't really function. So I think it's about fitting into a system, and I don't think that he looks at the prices. I think he looks at the personalities.
Fantastic, great. Okay, let's move on to Europa League semi-final second legs, and obviously Man United have a slender lead over Celta, while Ajax travelled to Lyon with a 3-goal head start that they conceded in away, guys. We know. Jonas, I don't know why, but most media outlets give this impression that United's tie is done and dusted, while Ajax against Lyon is in the balance. How do you see both things?
I think that the whole Man United thing is because they don't lose that often. I mean, they managed to win in Vigo, which is great. Now they have to go to Old Trafford and not lose, which fits Mourinho perfectly. He rarely loses at home. United rarely lose at home, or rarely lose at all. I mean, how many games did they go before they lost to Arsenal? Now 20, 29, 25. Yeah, there you go. So I mean, there were a lot of games that they don't lose. So I mean, it suits them perfectly. But then again, being an underdog really suits Celta. That's sort of what they want. I think when they played Shakhtar, they were down 2-1. They lost 2-1 at home, and then they turned it around in Donetsk. So I mean, they're a team that likes to be an underdog. That's sort of what suits them. Eduardo Berizzo is obviously a disciple, I should say, of Marcelo Bielsa, who took that fantastic Athletic Bilbao side to Old Trafford and completely played United off the park. So I don't think it's done and dusted. I think something will happen which will create a lot of excitement in that game. I mean, it won't be a dour game. I don't know if I back United to go to the final. I think given the importance of this final, I think Mourinho will just manage to win. He has this weird thing that when he needs to win, he'll win. And I think he'll do that, and I think that he'll face Ajax in the final. I can't see them. They're young side and very inexperienced, but I mean, 3-goal head start, as you said. I mean, the away goal is obviously what keeps this tie in the balance, but I mean, you win 4-1 at home. If you concede one, fine, you shut up shop. Simple. You put Kasper Dolberg or Younes up front to run a little bit, and you play a long ball up to them to sort of I suppose create havoc. But I personally cannot see Ajax crashing out, and I think that we'll see the Louis van Gaal derby in the final as Man United faces Ajax.
That'll be a very difficult encounter. I mean, I think Ajax's average age is like 22 or something like that. It's
21, 22.
Yeah, it's fantastic what they're doing. They keep churning players. I mean, I've had the pleasure of visiting Ajax's training ground and seeing how they do things. I think they've got about 21 teams within Ajax, all the way down from under 5s or something, under 6s. It's ridiculous, but ridiculous in a good way, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will be an intriguing final. Look, I'm not going to count my chickens. When you said that something's going to happen, I think you wanted to say Fellaini to get sent off, right?
Well, you never know with him, I suppose. And they have. I have to say, Celta have Pablo Hernandez, who really enjoys riling up his opponent. Either he riles up himself or his opponent. I mean, if he faces Fellaini, you know who's going to get sent off first between those two.
Fellaini.
What do you think? Because we were going back and forth. We did a show beforehand, Jonas, and it got a bit heated between us in terms of United's tactics and whatnot. And what do you think is going to happen on Thursday? We know that United don't have to win. Do you think we're going to go with a back 6 again?
No, they're back 5 this time.
Back 7.
All right, okay, pedant.
I think United win 1-0. I think we'll score early, and then that'll be it. United don't score many goals at Old Trafford.
Would you take that?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Of course it would.
Happy days.
Yeah.
So you can smile on the Friday morning.
Yeah, simple as that, yeah. As long as United get to the... I mean, the objective now is, I know we spoke about the football and whatever. It's all about results now. I don't care if we play 9 at the back.
But it's always been about results. This is what I never understand. Mourinho comes in.
Yeah.
I hear fans saying to me, of other teams, I'd never have Mourinho in my team. But then if he wins 2 trophies, which is 2 trophies more than most teams in the Premier League, how is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing. I think
I'm sorry. This is snobbery in England about the way that football should be played, right? Arsenal didn't play great football under George Graham. Liverpool didn't play great football under Kenny Dalglish. They were winners, okay? If United are playing rubbish football and winning trophies, as a fan, I don't care. I do not care.
I agree.
Spurs fans are saying, we play the best football. But what does that get you?
Yeah.
Isn't this the old Arsenal argument? I mean, playing good football and finishing 4th each and every season. I mean, you don't win anything. An FA Cup here and there. Haven't won the league since 2004. I mean, I think that Mourinho stands for effective football more so than entertaining football, and I think he's in a business of being successful and winning and being one of the greatest managers of all time. I rate him higher than I do Arsene Wenger now. The guy has, what is it, 2 Champions League trophies. I mean, the guy is fantastic, and he's proven that he'll get results. He wins a trophy. I think he has an average of 1.5 trophy or something each and every season he's been a manager. It's absolutely it's ridiculous the amount the guy wins. So I think this season, I think your hat says it very well. It's a progress, and I think next season is when they sort of have to be Manchester United and sort of be entertaining and winning and playing youth and sort of being what everyone expects them to be. But I think that when you hire, I think this is my problem. When you hire a manager, you're not hiring just a guy and sort of the character that he is. You're also hiring a footballing mentality, footballing philosophy. You're putting it in. Philosophy is obviously where the buzzword that all Man United fans hate after those years with Louis van Gaal. But he, if anything, he was right, because he said, I come with my philosophy. You've hired me for the next 3 years to do this, and that, because you seemingly believe in me. You've given me the reins. Then you have to sort of believe in what I come with and sort of how I view football. The same thing goes for Mourinho. He just doesn't use that buzzword, but he'll play defensive. He'll park the bus at least 5 or 6 games during a season. He'll grind out a 1-0 result or a 1-1 draw at Anfield. That's what he does. And then he'll make sure that he wins every single home game. That's what he has done at Real Madrid, Inter, Porto, Chelsea both times. That's what he's always done. So I don't see how Man United fans are sitting there, oh, I want him to, always attack and sort of always go for it, at the Emirates or at the Etihad, or, oh, we're drawing 0-0 at the Etihad. Well, that's because that's what he does. He gets something out of a place people expect him to get nothing. And I mean, if Zlatan's head was a little bit angled towards a different way, he would have scored at Anfield, and that would have been 3 points instead of 1. So I mean, he's always done this. He'll always do it because he's always one doing this. And I think that when you're hiring a guy who's been so successful doing it that way, he's never ever going to change. The same way Arsene Wenger is never ever going to change, because he's one doing it that way. Therefore, he believes he can always do it that way. Pep Guardiola has done it one way. He'll do it that one way for the rest of his career. Jurgen Klopp has done it the same way. Diego Simeone. This is how they are. The only manager I've seen that has completely done a 180 in terms of how he plays is Jorge Sampaoli, who's the manager of Sevilla. He's the only manager I've seen who's done one thing and then gone somewhere else and had to change completely. Which I think Marcelo Bielsa talked about the other day, that he's probably he's better than him because he's so pragmatic. But that's my digression on it. But I think in terms of Jose Mourinho, if United fans are complaining about how he's managing, they really haven't seen him manage that much, because this is what he's always done. The only thing is that he doesn't have the squad that he wants. He signed 4 players. I think he believed that the players that he had were better than they are. I think he thought guys like Chris Smalling, Phil Jones, Aaron Fellaini, to be honest with you, as well, but and definitely Wayne Rooney, he thought they were a lot better than they were. And this has been a wake-up call for him. And I can see a lot of players being moved on. And I can see him signing at least 4, 5, 6 players. Given the amount of money he'll be given if they get the Champions League, oh boy, you might see a lot of transfer records being broken.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. I mean, Phil, a good friend of ours, Phil Brown, on NBC, right on the head. He said,
Great guy.
Behind the scenes, not on the pitch, there's been nothing short of a miracle. We've got to bear in mind is that David Moyes has come in. The players have obviously not respected him, kind of like the opposite of Zidane. They've seen David Moyes, they're like,
very good.
Look at your CV, Preston. What's this? We've just won the league. Yeah. And then obviously there's a bit of a player revolt. You hear about David Moyes making players train, in a public park before the Bayern Munich game, and making Rio Ferdinand watch videos of Jagielka telling him that's and little things like that. And then obviously David Moyes didn't work, and then Van Gaal's come in obviously as a stopgap, because he came in to basically tidy up all the mess that David Moyes did, but also fill the the agenda or the requirements of the Glazers to bring through youth, like the Moneyball thing, and then the Selamon, which it worked for a bit, but he gave debuts to 14 players, and I think only 3 of them are still at the club.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he got rid of most of them, to be fair. So Mourinho's come in, and then he's obviously seen the mentality of a lot of players. We heard about Schweinsteiger getting preferential treatment, being allowed to go see his wife in America. Rooney and Carrick with these little cliques that developed. Strikers being told to take a touch in the box before shooting. So he's having to kind of like reprogram them.
Yeah.
Right. And as Jonas said, he's coming. He's thought maybe Jones and Smalling are pretty good. No, they're rubbish. We know this.
Yeah.
But he needed to see this for himself. That's what I'm saying. He needs a year. Klopp needed a year.
Yeah.
Conte obviously didn't need a year because he won the title, but different circumstances. So when a new manager, Pep needs a year. As much as I don't like him, he needs a year to see what players he's got. I don't think he's gonna keep the likes of Company and Clichy and all these players. Kolarov, I think he'll keep because he's done a job for him. But players like Clichy, better than Clichy and Sanya.
He'll keep Company. He'll definitely keep Company.
Yeah.
I think
he's so good. He's been so good when he's been injury free. But the thing is, when he stays injury free, he's the best central defender in the league. Simple as. There's no one better than Company when he's injury free.
Oh, don't say it's the Arsenal fans. Just say it's Koscielny.
Oh, Jesus Christ! You have to go with this. I mean, if there's one thing, and I hope that some of my Twitter followers watches this, if there's one thing I'm so tired of, is this Koscielny thing. Listen, he's good. I'll give him that. He's good. He's not in my top 10 central defenders, perhaps not even my top 15 in the world. That's my opinion of him. I think, I can't. I tried this so many times mentioning 10 defenders that are better than Koscielny, and I manage it every single time. So I can't. You're not even going to start there. We're going back to City and sort of also United, City, Liverpool. They've all needed a season, and they all need a season to sort of, I think, for the managers to grasp a little bit where they are at. Mourinho was given a wake-up call in his last season at Chelsea. I think he's trying to redeem himself a little bit. And I think if you look at the way he sort of acted when being at Stamford Bridge as well, sort of you can see that there's a guy there who wants redemption, but he's a little bit uncertain of how he's going to do it with what he has. I think for Pep Guardiola, I think this is the first time he's gone somewhere where not everything's been laid out for him. He has to sort of work a little bit for it. In terms of Antonio Conte, he came into the perfect storm because that was a team that was underperforming like never before. Had Diego Costa, Fabregas, Hazard, Courtois, a lot of players that have an extremely high level. He added Kante. It was just a little sprinkle that he needed. And that was a team ready to go. They were all underperformers. They were all champions. So, I mean, he just had to sort of kick them a little bit up the backside, and that was it. And if there was anyone who would kick someone up the backside, of course it was Antonio Conte. So people being, oh, he's the greatest manager of all time. We never saw this coming. I saw it coming. I said that when he signed. It was the perfect manager to install a winning mentality. The only manager that sort of has had to carry on something a little bit and sort of keep something going and meticulously make sure that everything was all right in having stayed at a club for a year now was Maurizio Pochettino. What he's doing is fantastic, I think. What he's doing is second to none. In managing Tottenham to take Tottenham to the Champions League for a second season in a row, fantastic. I think he's not being mentioned enough. I mean, someone will say the whole thing about last season, who came third in the 2-horse race and all that stuff. This season, you see the likes of Eriksen, Kane, Ali, Vertonghen, Alderweireld. Walker might be going, Rose might be going, but still he has Trippier, he has Davis. He's managed to build something fantastic there, and with very limited on a very limited budget seemingly as well. But going back to the bigger sides, I think next season, if United get the Champions League, I think we'll see something that's never ever been done in the transfer window in the summer. First and foremost, I think he'll destroy the transfer market. I think Guardiola will have a side that looks more or less like the one he wants, and I think Liverpool will be. They'll move on. The likes of Sturridge. They'll buy a striker hopefully for their sake. Finally, I mean, Roberto Firmino is not a striker. Daniel Sturridge. I mean, what is he? A cracker? I mean, he keeps breaking up. So
Mr. Glass.
Yeah, he is made of glass. I mean, cracker's probably not the best word to use, but he keeps breaking up, and they don't have a striker. When he gets a striker, I think they'll look good. They need a leader in defense. I mean, I thought they had it in Mamadou Sakho, but apparently he's busy, pissing Jurgen Klopp off. So I don't know. There's so much potential in those sides, and I think if United win the Europa League, you'll have 5 English teams in the Champions League. That means 5 teams that will need to really, really solidify their teams and really, really grab what's on the transfer market. I think that this summer, if they get 5 sides in Europe, and those 5 sides are Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Manchester City, that transfer window is going to be, as the kids would say, is going to be lit.
I'm just going to close the subject very quickly on Mourinho.
Oh, here we go.
I don't think the United fans next season will accept the type of football. I think this season, because he's coming in his first year, and United have got a lot of rubbish, which is well documented, we might accept that he's playing a certain way for what he's got. United fans won't accept it next year if he plays the same football. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, but if the results...
But the results haven't been there.
Okay, we're going ifs and buts again.
Yeah.
If my auntie had... Yeah, right.
But what if this then? What if the results are good, but the play is overall not appealing on the eye?
Then, as fans, because your team is winning, you'll always accept the result, even though the football's not there.
Anyway, listen. Let me...
At United have always been built on a certain way of playing football.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, okay. So this is some kind of rhetoric that you've got from MUTV or something.
No, it's not. It's over the years where we've had Ferguson, and go back to Matt Busby, where everything started. United played always this attacking style of football. Now, listen. This isn't chimney sweep stuff. It's not about aesthetics now. Right, forget this whole United played pretty football because we had George Best and we had this one, and we played pretty football under Sexton, but it didn't work, and we played great football under Big Ron, but that didn't work. How many times did Alex Ferguson go to Man City and play 5 in midfield? How many times did he play 5 in midfield at Arsenal? How many times did he play 5 in midfield in the European game? But he changed his system in Europe to accommodate Varane, right? And that didn't actually work out too well. So Ferguson was just as guilty as Mourinho. Just because Mourinho decided to play 2 or 4 fullbacks against Arsenal in a game which he even said was a dead rubber. Mourinho consistently does it at most games. Well,
Fergie
didn't.
No, he doesn't.
Chose certain games.
He doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Wasn't Ferguson the one who implemented the terms squeaky bum time and smash and grab?
Right. Thank
you.
Yeah,
but that's a different. That's mind games. That's a different style. We're going from mind games to total tactics in a football game. Now,
how many games has Mourinho done that this season? Liverpool away, Man City away. I didn't even say Man City away. We didn't play like that. Arsenal away. There's 3 games.
Did it Chelsea away? He tried to did it in the FA Cup game with Chelsea.
Yeah, but he tried to play the same system at Chelsea away as he did at Chelsea at home in the league, and we won 2-0. So what?
The red card change.
It's all right to play it when we win, but it's not right to play it when we don't.
No, there's a way of playing. At United, for me personally, there's a way of playing. Now, if he's going to play a certain way and he's going to be successful about it, United fans can't complain. I can't complain because we're winning games. It is all about winning. But he's not winning. So if he's not winning and the style of football is not good, okay, because it's his first year, we'll accept it. We did it with Moyes. I mean, with Moyes and Van Gaal, it was exactly the same thing.
Can I ask you to hold that thought for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're saying we need to play a certain way of footbrough,
a more attacking style of football.
With the players that we have now, can we play that way? And shall I tell you why I asked this? Because if you remember Arsenal, when they went through the Invincibles, they can beat everyone, and then they did nothing in Europe. They were playing beautiful football, and we always said, we can't go toe-to-toe with them because they'll destroy us. So when we played them, we kick them off the park. Bolton kicked them off the park. Do we have the players now to play the style of football that you think we should play and be successful?
No. But there's certain games that you choose a certain style of play. You can't go consistent. Like Sunday. You can't play Mkhitaryan and Mata and the White in a back six. What is Mata and Mkhitaryan going to do?
I agree.
Exactly.
I agree. However,
yeah.
but again, you're not thinking of the circumstances, which we've spoken about before. The Celta game is more important.
Okay.
If he plays his full strength team or tells them to go full pelt, I wouldn't be surprised if he told them to stay in first gear. What for? Why are you going to exert yourself?
Possibly.
And as I said before, had it not been for a wicked deflection, right? That goal came from nowhere, Xhaka's goal.
I agree.
It was going 0-0. It was just like a Pacquiao against Mayweather.
I agree.
That's what it was.
But again, it happened. Second goal came in, and there was no response after.
Yeah,
either.
and Arsenal didn't even try to get a third. Arsenal didn't go for the junkie.
It says it all. They were comfortable.
Well, listen,
Liverpool way. He played Rashford, who's probably one of the best attacking striker, left back, near enough.
Yeah, and that's a learning curve for the kid. It's a learning curve. Didn't Rooney ever track back when he was younger?
Tracking back and playing left back.
He didn't play him left back. Come on,
he played him and Ashley Young in another back six.
Okay.
I think I sort of, in a way, I agree. I agree that Manchester United have, in a way, an obligation to play in an attacking style of football because it's always been the club's tradition. I understand that, and I respect that. And I think fans respect that, and I think Mourinho respects that in a way. What I do think, though, is, again, going back to my argument earlier, if you wanted all of that, and if that's sort of what the club wants, why hire Mourinho? Why are you actually hiring him then? If anything, I think that
they've hired Mourinho for his winning mentality and for his track record and everything that he's done at previous clubs, which is great. And he will do that at United. I'm not doubting him at all.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, this season, for what he's got, and I accept what he's got a lot of rubbish at United, so he's dealing with what he's got.
Yeah.
But I still think with what he has, are certain games, certain situations, he can play a different style of football.
But hasn't that done that, though?
And get battered.
Yeah, but getting battered and playing playing the way that we are and still not winning.
Okay.
We don't know.
Let me flip this argument a little bit. If you look at it, look at I'm gonna feel free to mention games that I will forget. Hull at home.
Yes. 0-0.
Burnley at home.
0-0.
Arsenal at home.
1-1.
A couple more.
1-1.
Yeah, there's another one. There's another one. Aren't these? That's 5 games now.
Yeah.
Aren't those 5 games that all ended in a draw that United comfortably should have won just by margins?
Yes.
And weren't those margins created by very, 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 very well attacking play?
It was created by bad finishing and probably good goalkeeping.
Right. Who are the man of the matches in that game? Tom Heaton. The West Ham goalkeeper was man of the match. The Stoke goalkeeper was man of the match. So that's 3 games already.
Yeah, but I'm not.
Ben Foster was a man of the match.
We're going away from what you're not saying. At home, against the lesser clubs, what you expect United to play in back six against? Let
me ask you something. When Oxlade-Chamberlain crossed the ball for Giroud's goal, who was tracking him?
Rashford.
Right. Okay. Right.
Exactly, because
when you're like,
shot up shots.
You want Rashford to just stay up top and just stand there and what?
No, I don't want Rashford to stay up top.
But my point was, let me just emphasize what my point was by saying this. That's 5 games where United gained a total of 5 points. Now, they should have been 15 points.
Yeah.
Would one of you guys like to go on a table now and see what 10 more points would do United, and see where they've been?
Oh yeah, that's my argument in all the time.
And then I flip it again and I say, if United had 10 more points, would this be a discussion?
It wouldn't be a discussion at all. But this is the thing, Jonas, right? For some reason, it's Mourinho that should be scoring the goals. For some reason, it's Mourinho that missed all these chances. For some reason, it's Mourinho that had 39 shots against Burnley and
not at all. And I'm not talking about Mourinho playing negative football at home. I've never said that, and I'm not talking.
I get what you're saying, and I understand that, and they have an obligation to attack and sort of not surrender from the get-go against the bigger teams.
Sorry to interrupt you. You know, let's talk about United's away form then against the big boys. They haven't scored 1 league goal against none of the top 4 this season, right? So if we're going to go down that route of if they scored better finishing against Hull, Burnley, blah blah blah, they have 10 more points. So United haven't deserved to win any away game this season. Then is that right?
I suppose.
Well, there you go. So there's no argument really, is there? Because if they haven't deserved to win them games, but they should have won the home games, where would that lead you? It's irrelevant because the reason why we're playing that type of game It's because we're
Let's
not
flip it then again.
because they're not good enough to win them.
Well, let's flip it again. Louis van Gaal won every single big game away. Almost every single big game he played away, he won or he drew. I think the only two he really got spanked were against Tottenham away and Arsenal away. He really got spanked in those games. I mean, United played Liverpool off the park in that one game at Anfield when Di Maria
Mata.
later on for Mata and that fantastic scissor kick. I mean, and I think Steven Gerrard was sent off in that game.
Yeah.
Exactly. And but he never. But then again, he managed to play that way away from home. He sort of understood how to do it, but he never ever got how to win at home or how to win against the smaller teams. So I mean, if he wins away against the bigger teams, that's all well and dandy. But if he loses against the teams at home or he doesn't beat those teams, he's fired. I mean, it's sort of to me, it's a little bit have your cake and eat it too argument, because you want everything to work, and I think this is sort of where Manchester United fans get it wrong, in my opinion, and that's my personal opinion. Alex Ferguson will never ever be replicated. He was fantastic, and he's in my opinion, the greatest club manager of all time, and there will never ever be anyone to surpass him in that aspect. There'll be people that are close, but given what he did for such a long time with that sort of club and how he sort of created a footballing cathedral at Old Trafford, will never be replicated by anyone. What I think is very unfortunate is that so many will look for that style of play, will look for that way of dominating, look for that sort of aura that Manchester United created throughout UK and throughout Europe, to be honest with you. I mean, I go everywhere, and if I speak about Manchester United, did you know that if you go to Spain, Manchester United aren't called El United or El Manchester United? It's just El Manchester, because there's just one team in Manchester. Because that's what Sir Alex Ferguson created. El City is El City. That's Manchester City. El Manchester, that's the Reds. That's that team. That's something that he created, but it won't be replicated. And I think that so many people need to let that go a little bit. It's difficult, but I think the United way, that's sort of, I suppose Wostello called it the MUTV rhetoric. It's sort of that. That's sort of what it is. Nothing will last forever, and I think in terms of Mourinho, I completely agree. If he, using as much money as it did last summer, if he does that again this summer and the results stay the same, yeah, I agree. Then there's an argument for him not to be there for a third season. But for now, looking at it, yes, the results haven't been as horrible as they are. I just checked now. If he had those 10 points more that he should have had, United would have been third comfortably. They would have been in the Champions League comfortably. In the Europa League semi-final with a chance of winning a second cup this year, having won one previously, comfortable in third, and no one would say anything. It will be all well and dandy, and everyone will be like, oh, next year is our year. It will be the whole, we look decent. Yeah, exactly. We look decent. Next season is going to be really our year. But seeing as those 10 points aren't on the table, everyone's panicking. Everyone's thinking, oh no, what are we going to do? The fact of the matter is, if Manchester United don't qualify for the Champions League, yes, I understand that people will be a little bit up in arms over that and sort of, this wasn't after plan. But if they do get the Champions League, aren't they really where they're supposed to be? Did anyone really expect them to win the league this season? I certainly didn't.
No, I didn't.
No.
I expected us to be a lot better than what we have been this season. But
I didn't.
Well, a short opinion.
But if those 10 points were there, wouldn't they have been to your expectations then?
Who, me?
No, me.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for the money that we spent and the caliber of the manager that we got in.
The money spending.
But it is, but it's this thing.
Okay,
it's
so
if you spend £90 million on a player, don't expect to be sixth in the league.
One second, right? If we spent 5 million on Pogba, say 5 million on Mkhitaryan, and 5 million buy, would that have made any difference to your opinion?
No, because I know the players who they were, so the expectancy will still be there. It's the money, forget it. Okay, yeah, say we spend £1 on each each player. Because of Mourinho and because of what we brought in, I'd expected us to be a lot higher in the league than what we have been.
Okay, so
now,
if that's the case, then you've got to give Pogba a year. You've got to give Mkhitaryan a year. You've got to give Baye a year, and you have to give. Well,
and I'm giving Jose a year. I'm not denying that. I'm not giving them a year.
But you're moaning already.
I'm not moaning.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
I agree.
Remember when Ferguson took over? The club was on its knees.
Absolutely.
On its knees. Okay, you know.
Here's a great comparison. I have a great comparison for you guys.
I'm not talking about Ferguson. It's got nothing to do with Ferguson.
But this is what I'm saying. Football is a cycle. United ain't going to be dominating like they used to back in the day. You know, we've got to accept this. We've got to move on from this. Oh, what, we're Man United, so we've got divine right to be challenging. That's not how it goes. That is not how it goes. And this is the problem with Arsenal at the moment, because their fans on whichever TV station they got on YouTube, right, they've grown up watching Arsenal win trophies here and there. And all of a sudden, oh, yes, these delusions of grandeur, we should be winning the league. We should be challenging. That's not how it works. You move with the times. Only now Wenger is changing the system. Only now.
After how many
years?
Only
now. So this is what I'm saying. We've got to sit there and we've got to say that, A, we're not the best team in the country. We're not the second or third or fourth or even the fifth best team in the country at the moment. But this is a manager that's a winner, as Jonas said. He's a winner. Wherever he goes, he wins. That's it. And that's all that matters to Woodward. That's what matters to United fans now. We need to get out of this mentality. It's like, oh, we need to play pretty football. We have to have great wingers to be bombing down the wings. Wingers are a dead trade now.
Doesn't happen.
Dead trade. You know, fullbacks are more entertaining than wingers, you know? So we need to get out of this mentality where it's, oh, we've got to play aesthetically pleasing football. We're not Brendan Rodgers. This isn't Celtic. You're not going to win the league by 40 points. So this is what I'm saying. And even if, as Jonas said, if we were in the Champions League this season, we'd get battered. Last season, I'm flicking over PSV Eindhoven game to watch Jordi Shaw. That's how bored I was. We'd get battered if we're in the Champions League this season.
Well, we haven't even been great in the Europa, to be fair. Even though we're in the semi, innit? So.
But this is what I'm saying. Exactly. We haven't been great, but we're there. And we've got a manager that can do it. Anyway, I'm going to close the door on this one. Do you want to close the door on this one?
We'll have the debate another time.
Jonas wants to close the door on this one. We're closing the door.
That's it.
Right. Wicked. Jonas, you mentioned world-class goalkeepers on Twitter. Do you want to get this one started?
Yeah, well, I was speaking about, well, I'm a little bit younger than you guys, but I said from 1992 to today, I had a list of 5 goalkeepers that I think were the 5 best, and it's still being debated on Twitter. Let's see, people keep telling me to go die and all those things because of my opinion. But I did mention the top 5 goalkeepers of my lifetime, which I had at number 1, Peter Schmeichel, at number 2, Gianluigi Buffon, at number 3, Manuel Neuer, at number 4, Iker Casillas, number 5, Edwin van der Sar. And then I wrote, I expect David De Gea to be on that list in a couple of years.
Wow, okay. Do you want to start? Because I've got my feelings on David De Gea, which could go for a long time.
Yeah, I've started to agree with you about De Gea on certain aspects. I think he's a brilliant shot stopper, but
agreed.
There's aspects of his game that dramatically need to improve. Doesn't come off his line.
Starting position.
Yeah, starting position. Doesn't come and catch the ball. Doesn't come for crosses.
Do you think he's commanding his area?
No, I don't. I think when he does come to catch a ball, he's actually good. But he doesn't do it too often for me. He stays too much on his line.
I agree with that.
And it's one aspect that 100% needs to. But saying that, I don't think he'll be a United player next season.
No, I agree. I think that personally, I think the deal was done. Look, he's a great shot stopper, and look, I'm not going to be overcritical on the guy. He's saved us a lot of points. I mean, he's been our player of the year for 2 years.
2 years in a row. Yeah.
However, getting beaten at his near post too much.
Saving the ball with his legs. With his hands.
Look, every goalkeeper tries to save the ball with their feet, but he does it too much for me. The starting position is the one that gets me the most, because as you mentioned the other day, and I'm surprised no one has really pointed this out. Tanzibi, he's telling him, come and get the ball, and he's going further back. Rojo's done it. Baye's done it. They speak the same language. So what's going on? I don't know whether he's still
fear. Was it a fear factor?
Is it fear? Because he hasn't been clattered since Andy Carroll clattered him 3 years ago. So what is it about him? Has he been told to stay on his line? Is he not quick enough off his line? I don't know. It's these little things, Jonas, that I'm not entirely convinced about him. I mean, maybe if he goes to La Liga, we'll see a different David De Gea. But right now, if United let him go. To me, it wouldn't be a massive loss as to say when we lost Van der Sar and Schmeichel.
David De Gea is a interesting topic because whenever there is stories about him, whenever there is speculation about him, he becomes a completely different player. From October till about March, start of April, he is the world's first, second, or third goalkeeper in the world. Just is just fantastic. But when those speculations starts, when the Madrid papers start drumming up the interest, when United fans start wondering is he going to be there, is he not, when Daily Mail and The Sun and everyone mentions the interest from Madrid, his head goes. I mean, he starts to look elsewhere. I mean, he has a girlfriend, which he probably will marry her, to be honest with you, because they've been together for so long, who lives in Madrid. He is a Madrid boy. He's born and raised in Madrid. He has a great connection to the city, great connection. His parents still live there, I believe. And he has a great connection with them as well. He's always been very open that he'd like to go to Real Madrid. I think he actually managed to sort of ruin his relation with Atletico Madrid before he left them. I think there were some stories about him being a little bit of a brat, to be honest with you. That was what I read about him anyways, or read about his situation over there. But I think deep down he'd like to go back. And I think that whenever he sort of hears, because I think he's one of those guys that reads the papers, or at least it's told what's happening by the likes of Juan Mata, Andre Herrera, or something like that, or his friends who ask him if he's going back to Madrid or wants him back to Madrid. So I think he's one of those guys that get a little bit. He's mentally strong, but at the same time he's mentally weak or compassionate towards where he's from. Because as I said, from October, I mean August, September, if United play, he's still in that funk, and you saw that Louis van Gaal benched him because he was in that funk. But from October till March or April, he's one of the best in the world. In terms of his starting position, sort of where he's at, I disagree a little bit because he is usually one of the most proactive goalkeepers out there. Sometimes he goes out too far. I mean, sometimes he actually loses. I remember when Raheem Sterling had an open goal a couple of years ago, and De Gea actually managed to get back on his line in time for him to save it. So I don't think that he's scared of it, but I just think that at times when it comes to the situations that are now, I think that he's a little bit, not there. I think his head is somewhere else, and that's something that he'll need to work on, which is what Mourinho has said on a couple of occasions as well. I mean, he needs to sort of figure out, where he wants to be. And in the Spanish papers, when I was down there, it said that Mourinho United are open to talk about a transfer for De Gea because Mourinho really doesn't want players at the club that don't want to wholeheartedly be there. So I think this summer will be. How old is he now? He's born in 1990. He'll be 28 next year. Yeah, he'll still have time to go for one last move. But if he renews his contract at United, which seems to be inevitable if he doesn't go to Madrid, that'll be a 6-year or 5-year deal, perhaps 5 years with an option for another one. That means that his contract which ends now in 2019, will end in around 2020. He'll be 32. I can't see Real Madrid going for a 32-year-old goalkeeper, especially given that they'll probably buy someone else. They'll probably find somehow to buy Donnarumma from AC Milan. Perhaps they'll buy Courtois from Chelsea. And that'll sort of close the door on him. So I think it's now or never, but I think that's that means that United holds all the aces because they can sell him for how much they want.
The thing is that they say a contract is worth as much as the paper is printed on. Now the thing is, I remember when he first joined us, he was a very timid chap. He had a couple of mistakes at the Charity Shield, West Brom away. Then there was Donut Gate and Tesco, where he allegedly stole a donut. And as time went on, he grew, he matured. But again, I didn't see him mature into a commanding goalkeeper that we were used to seeing. I've had this debate with so many United fans, and I said my interpretation of the world class, or the words world class, is a player that you would put in an all-time world 11. For me, that's world class. So when I hear David De Gea class as world class, I don't see it because I wouldn't put him ahead of Schmeichel. I wouldn't put him ahead of Buffon. I wouldn't put him ahead of Bodo Illgner. I wouldn't put him ahead of Hans van Breukelen. I wouldn't put up Van der Sar, Oliver Kahn. I wouldn't put him ahead of these guys because these are 6 goalkeepers. Casillas, 7 goalkeepers. Vitor Bayer. I wouldn't put him ahead of these ones because I'm 36 years old, and I've seen these players. But then, obviously, as going back to De Gea, your time's progressed and he's matured. But then you had that little incident or that allegation with Munyain, which I'm not really going to go into because I don't know the full facts and all of it.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Then there was the altercation with Van Gaal, and obviously Van Gaal, who had this habit of going cold on players. He went cold on Di Maria, he went cold on Herrera, he went cold on Mata,
Victor
Valdez, and that was the one that did it. That was the one that did it because obviously we had that little Spanish contingent at United. He fell out with Victor Valdez, even though he brought him in.
Rafael as well, yeah.
And everyone just went, well, he doesn't like Brazilians for some reason. But you know, he caused a big rift in the squad, and that ultimately was the beginning of the end for Van Gaal last season because, as you saw, players started to revolt and whatnot. But again, going back to De Gea, I'd be very surprised if he's at United next season. As Jonas said, United are very happy to discuss terms with Real Madrid, and I don't think the fax machine's going to break this time.
That's what I was going to say. Let's face it, if the fax machine didn't break,
they didn't have the money, did they?
Who, Real Madrid?
Yeah.
I don't know, possibly, but he would have been a Real Madrid player last year.
Yeah. That hurt him.
Madrid didn't have the money.
That hurt him. I think that hurt him.
Yeah.
What happened?
Because then immediately he signed a 5-year deal, didn't he?
Yeah, but the thing is, I think there's more to it than that because there's no way you can't turn around and say the fax machine, there was something wrong with it. I'm not having that. I'm not. A club like Real Madrid should have 3 or 4 fax machines, or at least go to the shop down the road and pay 5p to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like we've got. I don't understand, but I don't think he'll be at United next season. And fair play to the guy. He's
done well.
He's done well at United. I'm not going to say that he's been a rubbish goalkeeper, but I think we can do better, personally.
Interesting story about that fax machine story or fax machine gate, whatever you want to call it. Do you know that Keylor Navas actually signed his Manchester United contract while he was on the massage table?
Really?
Yeah, he was crying and signing at the same time. That's
he didn't.
That's honestly, he was crying. He was really crying, sitting as he was leaving, laying on the massage table, being checked out by a doctor as they were trying to hurry the deal off. He was actually sent. I believe he was sent to the airport, sort of waiting for things to happen, waiting for a chartered plane to get down there, and it was told it was off. So it was a really strange. I read that. I don't remember where it was, but I read somewhere that he was crying on a massage table as he was signing it. I think it was Spanish media that had something about that, or he was talking about it himself, sort of how he was coming back from the whole traumatic experience that he was leaving and didn't want to leave, and his family was so happy in Madrid and so forth. And then they went, and then he went and won the Champions League the next year. So it was sort of a happy story for him being the outcast and then sort of being the Phoenix Rising the next season. So it was an interesting story. But I think that in terms of David De Gea, I think that he needs to get mentally stronger. He needs to sort of understand where he's going to be for the next year or for the foreseeable future, and he needs to sort of come to grasp with that. I think he needs to stop letting an agent or a manager control him. I think he needs to be able to control himself. If he wants to go to Madrid, then go to Madrid. I mean, go there. I mean, I don't think that there's a case of a player not being replaceable. I mean, some players are easier to replace than others. I agree. I heard the name of Jan Oblak being mentioned here. That's probably the one that I'd pick as well. Is he as good as De Gea right now? Probably not. Does he have the potential to be as good as him or better? Yes, he does. So I mean, if Mourinho is the type of guy, if he doesn't want to be there, he's off, and it's looking much clearer to me that he doesn't want to be at a club, and he's ruining. We were talking about great goalkeepers and the greatest of all time. He's ruining his own legacy by this happening each and every year, because what we will be talking about when he retires, it's, well, every summer there was this thing about him going or not going. Do we talk about Cristiano Ronaldo and his endless flirts with Real Madrid each and every summer? No, because he went there eventually, and he became one of the best players of all time, or perhaps the greatest player of all time. I mean, it's either him or Messi, but we don't talk about his constant flirts with Real Madrid because he actually went and did it. So I think he needs to decide for himself, is he going, is he not? And if he is not going, then he needs to stop doing the whole flirting each and every year as well, because it is going to ruin his legacy.
And I think Wesley Sneijder's still sitting there waiting to sign his United contract.
Oh, Nico Gaetan is sitting there waiting as well somewhere. Nico Gaetan, Ezekiel Garay is there. I mean, Renato Sanchez is coming in any second now. There's so many guys that would probably be, ranking up at Old Trafford anytime soon. Who else was there? Was someone else, someone big, I can't remember. Every single summer his name was up.
It was Ramos, it was Fabregas, it was Neymar, it was Bale.
No, but they were one summer wonders, but there was someone that kept popping up each and every summer. There was one guy. It was Schneider. It was one. There was another one. It was Gaetan and Schneider and one more. I just can't remember who it was.
I can't remember. Although the funniest for me was mid-90s. I remember I was going to school and buying the newspaper. It wasn't the Sun, I promise. And the story was Jean-Pierre Papin to join Spurs. And that's when I thought, nah, these papers are... I didn't even have Eurosport then. And I knew Papin would never leave Serie A to go to England.
I'll tell you a funny story when we were on to teletexts and Eurovision and all, or Eurovision, but you were talking all that stuff.
It's on Saturday, Eurovision, so...
It is. Greece are probably in there. Norway are probably not going to be in there. But anyways... I'll tell you a funny story. I remember I was watching a teletext. This is early 2000s, mid 2000s, and it says on the teletext, it says United have signed Ronaldo, and I was, whoa, Ronaldo, he's coming to Manchester. That's crazy. Wow, that's one of my favorite players going to Manchester United. I went, whoa. So I remember I clicked on there and I was like, Cristiano Ronaldo, who the hell is this guy? And a couple of years later, I suppose I knew who he was.
Yeah, I remember that because my cousin was round and he's a big Chelsea fan, and I saw it on Sky Sports News.
Yeah,
and I says Ronaldo. He goes, yeah, he's brilliant. I'm like, how do you know? He goes, I watched him in a friendly. I said, okay, well, that's not a great barometer kind of thing. He goes, no, it was against Man United and he ripped them to shreds. So okay, tell me more. And he told me how Gary Neville was ripped to shreds and John O'Shea was ripped to shreds, and we signed him. And I remember going to the game when we made his debut, and I knew straight away we had something special. For me, he's the best player I've seen live. I've seen Messi live. But for me, for Ronaldo, this is sentimental value, or, just my heart talking really. But what United achieved, and with him and that team, scoring 42 goals in a season, which he actually didn't really want to be at the club. It was something different. But
and he was a winger at that time as well.
Yeah, but you know what? All-round game.
Yeah.
Speed, quick. The leap and his heading ability. That goal against Aston Villa, where he got knocked over.
What a flick!
No. He was lying on the ground. And he got knocked over, and everyone just got on his back. So he got up and got the ball left foot, bottom corner. He did it time and time again. And I've got nothing but respect for the guy. He lost his dad when he was 18 years old. His dad died. There was the whole bullying with Van Nistelrooy, and Ferguson got that one spot on. He's the best player I've ever seen live. So
yeah, I can understand that. I saw him in Real Madrid now. A week or so ago. Superhuman. I mean, I've never seen an athlete like that. He's not the best player I've seen. I mean, in terms of the best player that'll go down in history. Yes, he's the best I've ever seen. He's not the best player I've seen on the day. That's actually Robin van Persie. He was fantastic when I saw him at Old Trafford one time. I don't remember which game it was, but it was just everything he did had a purpose with it. Everything he did, the touches, the movement, everything was just, you could see how he elevated the team just by being there. But I digress. But anyways, I remember Ronaldo to me was, it's kind of weird to say, but you forget the other one, which is very sad because that Ronaldo is, in my estimation, had he not been gone down with a knee injury, when he was at Inter the first time, I think that we'd be talking about two Ronaldos and a Messi. But again, destiny would have it that we got these two other ones.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Cristiano Ronaldo is the best player I've seen physically live, like being at a ground. But again, because I saw him week in, week out at United. But R9, best striker ever, I think. Best striker ever. I mean, and I used to watch Van Basten and Klinsmann, and oh man, the players that we were so lucky to see in the late 80s and the early 90s was something special. But R9 he was a monster, absolute monster. And even when he wasn't fit, he was still half decent. So yeah. Good. Jonas, look, I think we're going to wrap it up, mate, because I think you are about to fall asleep. Me talking about Ronaldo.
No, I'm always awake. I'm always awake.
I'm joking. Well, look, thanks ever so much for your time, man. Thank you for coming on. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning out in the West. So thank you ever so much for your time. I hope to have you back on sometime soon, man. And it's been great talking to you, man.
Been a great honor to be on, guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. I hope to be back very soon.
Cheers. Well, look, before I let you go, do you want to tell our listeners your Twitter handle? Mind you, our viewers are probably viewing for you, so just give them your handle.
No. They're viewing for you guys. I'm just trying to help out. My Twitter handle is Giaever, which is spelled CheGiaevara. You can find me on Twitter. If you follow me, you'll be one of 38,000 now. Actually, wow.
Here's me sitting with 1,000.
No. No, I like to put that in there because people ask me how'd you get so many followers, and I say, well, you ask me, I ask you. I have no idea. People seem to like my opinions.
There you go, wonderful, mate. Well, look, thank you so much for your time, mate. And you've been writing for the Guardian as well, haven't you?
I have, unknowingly actually. I wrote for a different page, and they have sort of a collaboration, I suppose, with the Guardian, and then they seemingly liked it and they put it on their page, and I was just notified by one of my followers, like, oh, you're in the Guardian. I was like, what? When did this happen? No one told me. So it's on there. It's I think it's still pinned to my profile on Twitter. So it's a long read about the ever fading future and the past of Norwegian national team football. I mean, so you said you guys are 36, and I suppose in your 30s you'll remember when Norway were great, when we were great in the early 90s, the late 90s. We beat Brazil twice in 97 and 98. We were ranked number 2 worldwide, the first ever FIFA ranking in 1993. And now I believe we're behind Antigua and Barbuda. So times are not good for us.
Wow. Well, I mean, I remember when Eric Mikland was there.
Oh, he was fantastic.
He went in Greece as well?
He was in Panathinaikos. I think we actually spoke about him the other day. I think he was voted in Greece actually as the greatest ever player of his generation, or greatest ever player of the decade within the 50-meter line. I mean, he never moved away from the center circle. So the greatest player in the center circle of his generation was Eric Mikland. Unfortunately, now he's suffering from some substance abuse and he tried to be a manager for a little while. He tried to be an expert on TV. Then there were this whole substance abuse case, and he sort of went he went under the radar after that. I believe he lives. I live in Oslo. I believe he lives here because there's a friend of mine who saw him out on the piss a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I should say. So he's about and kicking, but I wonder what sort of condition he's in. Unfortunately, great player. I met him when I was a kid as well. Fantastic guy as well. Very, very nice, but unfortunately, faith has not been kind to him.
Yeah, well, I wish him well, and let's just hope he gets better soon. But, well, Jonas, again, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate your time, and we'll definitely catch up soon.
Fantastic, guys. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, mate. Well, guys, thanks for viewing. You can follow us on Twitter at Shoot the Defense. We have a Facebook group page. We have a good laugh on it, actually, believe it or not. Everyone's quite civil these days. So maybe because the season's coming to an end and everyone's just giving up on life. Well,
wait until the transfer window and let me get back there.
Sorry?
You just wait till the transfer window and everyone will be very hostile.
Oh, I create a thread just for rumours, mate. It's brilliant. The kind of stuff that you see on that it's fantastic.
Fantastic.
There you go. Well, guys, that's us for this. No, I'm missing my words now. That's us for this week. We'll be back soon. Take care.